You won't believe what happened in our quiet neighborhood last weekend. It all started like any normal Saturday until someone spotted a strange figure crouched behind our woodpile. Turns out, it wasn't an animal or a prowler. It was our own HOA officer trying to stay hidden, and things only got weirder from there. Now, if you've ever dealt with a pushy HOA, you already know how tense things can get. But this guy, he took things to a whole new level. We had no idea why he was on our property or what he was trying to do back there. He didn't knock. He didn't call. He just slipped into our yard like he owned the place. So naturally we called for help. That's when the sheriff showed up with a K-9 unit. What happened next? Let's just say hiding behind a stack of firewood wasn't the smartest move. Within minutes, the dog locked onto something. The officer didn't come out when called. And well, that's when things took a wild turn. We still don't know exactly why he was back there or what he thought was going to happen. But what we do know is, this story isn't over yet. Stick around, because the next part will leave you shaking your head. This was one HOA visit no one saw coming. Now, before we get to what the dog actually did, let me back up a bit and explain how we even got to this point. This HOA officer, let's call him Tom, has always been a little intense. You know the type. Always sending warning letters for tiny things like a garden hose left out or a lawn 2 inches too high. He's the guy who drives by slowly, scribbling on a clipboard, looking for reasons to knock on your door. But lately, Tom had been acting even stranger. A few neighbors said they saw him walking around after dark, peeking between fences. We didn't think much of it, just figured he was being his usual nosy self. That is, until my wife noticed footprints by the woodpile earlier in the week. We thought maybe it was an animal. Never imagined it'd be Tom. Here's where it gets even more odd. Our security camera caught movement near the shed the night before. We didn't check the footage until after the sheriff came. And when we did, there was a shadowy figure creeping right along the fence line, right where the dog later found him. No one gave Tom permission to be back there. He wasn't on duty. No official notice, just a man in plain clothes, hiding behind stacked firewood. And the worst part, he didn't say a word when they found him. After the dog found Tom, the whole vibe shifted. The sheriff kept things calm, but you could tell he was just as confused as we were. Tom didn't resist. He just stood up slowly, brushed off his jacket, and said he was inspecting something. That's it. No explanation, no apology, just those few vague words. The sheriff asked if he had any legal reason to be on the property, and Tom mumbled something about HOA safety concerns, but couldn't back it up with paperwork or a call record. What made it even weirder is that our HOA board hadn't mentioned any inspections. I called one of the other board members the next day, someone I've known for years, and she was completely shocked. Said she hadn't approved anything, and that Tom had actually missed the last few meetings. Apparently, he'd been doing things on his own lately, acting like he had more authority than he really did. Meanwhile, word started spreading through the neighborhood. A few folks came by saying they had strange run-ins with Tom too. One neighbor said he caught him behind his garage a few days earlier, but figured it was a mistake. Another claimed he saw Tom near the kids' playground late one evening, but didn't want to stir up trouble. Now, people are starting to question what Tom was really doing, and if this was the first time he crossed a line, or just the first time he got caught. As the days passed, the tension in our neighborhood grew thick. People started locking their doors a little tighter and keeping a closer eye on their yards. Tom's odd behavior wasn't just unsettling, it felt like something bigger was happening, something none of us fully understood yet. The sheriff's visit stirred up questions no one had answers to, and Tom's silence only made things worse. I found myself replaying that moment behind the woodpile over and over. Why hide? What was he looking for, or trying to avoid? And how did the sheriff's dog know to find him there? Every detail seemed connected, but none of it made sense. It was like a puzzle missing half its pieces. Then last night, something else happened. Our neighbor called me in a panic. She said she saw Tom sneaking around again, this time near the community garden after dark. She swore she heard whispers, like he was talking to someone. But when she checked, no one was there. And now, some of the garden tools have gone missing, tools that are essential for all of us. Rumors are swirling, fingers are pointing, and people are growing more suspicious. The HOA board is holding an emergency meeting, but no one knows what Tom will say or if he'll even show up. We're all waiting for answers, but it feels like the situation is about to explode, and none of us know how it's going to end. Just when we thought things couldn't get any stranger, last night brought a twist that none of us saw coming. Around midnight, I got a frantic call from another neighbor. This time, it was someone I barely knew, but who sounded genuinely scared. She said she found a note taped to her front door, written in messy handwriting, warning everyone to stay out of the backyards and mind their own business. No signature, no explanation, just those chilling words. What sent a shiver down my spine was the note's location, right where Tom had been hiding behind the woodpile. It felt like someone was trying to send a message, but who? And why now? The sheriff's department has been called back again, and this time, they're talking about increased patrols around the neighborhood. Rumors are flying that Tom's actions might be tied to something more than just HOA rules. Some neighbors even whisper about possible trespassing or worse, but nobody wants to say it out loud. To make matters more confusing, the HOA board finally released a statement distancing themselves from Tom's behavior. They claim he's been acting outside his authority for weeks and might be facing suspension or something more serious. But Tom, he's gone quiet, completely off the radar. Now, with mystery notes, missing tools, and a rogue HOA officer, our once peaceful neighborhood feels like a pressure cooker ready to blow. Everyone's on edge, waiting for what happens next, but no one knows if things will ever go back to normal. After days of growing unease, the tension finally snapped last evening. The sheriff's team returned with more officers and the K-9 unit, this time ready to search the entire neighborhood. They focused on the backyards and the wooded areas near the community garden. That's when they found something no one expected, a hidden stash of stolen property, including the missing garden tools, and even some packages reported taken from porches around the block. But the biggest shock, among the items was a small recorder with audio clips of Tom talking about keeping order and watching over everyone. It became clear he'd been acting on his own mission, one that went far beyond enforcing HOA rules. The recordings revealed he'd been spying on neighbors, collecting dirt, and trying to control the community through fear and intimidation. The sheriff confronted Tom, who finally admitted he'd been feeling powerless after being sidelined by the HOA board. Instead of accepting his suspension, he took matters into his own hands, crossing lines and breaking trust. The neighborhood was shaken, but there was relief in knowing the truth. Just as we thought the nightmare was over, there was one last twist. That same night, the sheriff called me quietly and showed a new note found taped to Tom's empty mailbox. It read simply, "This isn't the end." Whoever left it knew the story wasn't finished. And just like that, the peace we hoped for felt more fragile than ever. In the days that followed, the neighborhood slowly began to heal. The HOA board officially removed Tom from his position, and the sheriff's department assured us they would keep a close watch on the area. The stolen items were returned, and neighbors started coming together again, determined not to let fear take hold of our community. It wasn't just about rules or property anymore. It was about trust, safety, and respect. Looking back, this whole situation was a wake-up call. It showed how important it is to question authority when something feels off and to stay connected with the people around you. Tom's actions reminded us that even those in positions of power can make mistakes, sometimes serious ones. But it also showed the strength of a community when neighbors support each other and stand up for what's right. That mysterious note at the end, we still don't know who left it, but it serves as a reminder to stay vigilant. Our neighborhood might be peaceful again for now, but this experience taught us that peace requires attention and care. So, If you ever feel something strange is happening where you live, trust your instincts and speak up, because sometimes the smallest clues can uncover the biggest stories.